And welcome to This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Reno, editor at This Week in Worcester, and I am here with Mr. John Edward Keogh. He is executive producer at Manny J Media. What's going on, John?
Nothing much. Nice to see you.
It is interesting that our dear program that we use here has changed all our background stuff. There we go. We're back to normal. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
Fancy up our page here. Good. We have a robust agenda tonight. First of all, the least important thing that we'll say today, we're saying it, so there'll be a lot of unimportant things. We are now in week 3 of Burnt Lipgate, and here I am still with Burnt Lipgate. Don't get old. I'm going to quote a former professor of mine, a great professor. I'm going to modify a quote from him. His name was Emmett Shea. He taught history at Worcester State for many years. He's now passed away. He used to say all the time, don't get old. It's really depressing. Everybody dies on you. And I'm going to modify that to don't get old. It's really depressing. You can't heal.
He
was a great man. Despite his dour look on getting old.
The word on the street is that people have taken sides, that there's Team Tom and then there's Team Burnt Lip. And it's the whole city is riled up about.
I would listen if this is like if anybody's taking bets, the odds gotta be on the Burnt Lip.
The Burnt Lip is gonna take you down.
It's fighting a war of attrition with me.
That's great.
So we have a robust agenda. We'll talk about all city things. I caught a little plaque from the folks about our Celtics conversation last week. That is not why people tune in, and that's not what we should be talking about.
What? Who got upset about that? It was great sports talk.
It was, but that's not what we do. I'm just telling you what the people say.
Hot take machines. We talk. We cover it all. It was pertinent at the time. We don't always have to do sports. Want to talk about
I'm just saying. I was just letting the folks know that today is all Worcester agenda, and we're gonna start off with a little bit of a video. I got a couple videos for you today, but we'll just start off with this one. It speaks for itself. Sue Mailman at the Worcester School Committee meeting last Thursday, or not. Come on, do it.
It is ironic to stand in this room, Mr. Mayor, and listen to instructions on how we evaluate a superintendent from a former superintendent who we can discuss 6 years of evaluations and what was real and not real about those. So I just want to say that out loud. It is also highly unusual that we sit on a body where a person that was not renewed is on our body. It has not happened statewide. And I think that there's a lot of scuttlebutt in other places, but we don't necessarily acknowledge what this superintendent, that is a highly unusual situation. And it could be, I guess, in some world, a place where we might imagine a former superintendent would say, yes, we want to keep going with our kids. Clearly, members of the public, members of this body, members in the newspaper, all kinds of people see what's going on here. And I'm sorry about that because I think it's wasted time and energy, and it frustrates the hell out of me.
Go ahead, Sue.
Oh, Sue Mailman.
Go ahead, Sue. Somebody finally acknowledged the elephant in the room.
By the way, Sue Mailman saying frustrates the hell out of me is the equivalent of a sailor who's been, stationed in the ocean for 4 years, walking into a bar. It's like she's like one of the. I've never heard her get mad before. Well, that's not true. I've seen her get upset in other contexts, but that was she was going at it. It is a weird situation. It's very, very strange. You have the former superintendent on the board that evaluates the current superintendent. And the other, I mean, four of the sitting members of the current board voted not to renew, including Sue, the member that she's talking about, which is
Correct.
tough. Four of your colleagues voted to fire you.
Well, voted not to renew.
And in this case, Maureen got the most votes, not just of any school committee member. She got the most votes in Worcester, and so it's a very politically intriguing thing. I mean, I gotta tell you, I mean, this is just me, but if I was gonna get 10,000 votes, I would have got 10,000 votes on the city council, not school committee. But it was a unbelievably robust political operation. So it's very interesting.
I'm starting to shake.
Oh no, he's gonna get upset.
I'm starting to shake. No, that's like how dare you? How dare you even say that's a possibility? God forbid. Anyway.
Wait a second. You haven't heard of the conspiracy theory?
Oh yeah, it's obviously.
Okay,
listen,
all right.
Yeah, I'm well aware of this conspiracy theory. So the theory is, it was silly from the start. Well, I don't believe there's anything to it, frankly.
Yeah,
I haven't asked anybody about it because I don't care.
It's all smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, but the theory was that this is going to be Mayor Petty's last year, and that and that the former superintendent, now school committee member Benenda, was going to run for mayor after he walked off into retirement after the end of this term. The mayor said on Manager Media's show, actually, that he has full intentions to run. And so I don't have any information either way. I just don't think there was anything, just my personal opinion. I don't think there was ever anything to it. But that's been a running thing in some circles. People have said for some time. If you're watching,
Manny J Media breaks the news. That's what happens because Manny asked them directly. He said, "I heard," and asked him, and the mayor said,
"Oh,
no.
He asked him very cavalierly, like very just, hey, you're running again." And the mayor did not hesitate to answer.
He did not hesitate. He's like, absolutely.
And I'd also say that if you're watching any of these school committee meetings, you will see that it's hard to see a situation where the mayor and member Benenda are on the same page about much of anything, really. Not that it's hostile, because the mayor doesn't operate that way, and I don't know that Benenda does either. But they're on the opposite. They're on the opposite side of many votes. So
yeah. One of the biggest being just and I know we're going to really dig into this, but just the outright criticism of both the students and the staff. That just like week after week after week, the school system is being hammered by this particular by Maureen. She's just hammering the employees of the school system and the students on a week-to-week basis. It's hard to not say that that's what's happening, because it is, And I don't know that make like, it's not like you're taking a political position. It's just stating the facts every week at these meetings. There are staff that are being just run over like they're really terrible people, and then the students are being criticized. It doesn't make sense.
And that's really at least part of what inspired me to do the series that I've done on the school committee's budget process. The newest piece of that is out. It's a little longer than the others, which is really a product of I don't want to do a fifth one.
This is for all the people watching and listening. Tom is shilling for his Pulitzer with this multi-part series. He's trying to win himself some paper awards. So if you know anybody on the Pulitzer voting committee, just send them an email of Tom's in-depth reporting on one meeting.
That's what I might as well do this for awards, because certainly not for money.
Yeah, let's get some awards, bro. Pulitzer gets you $20,000. Let's go.
So the title of the story is School Climate, Culture, and Some Don't Want to Learn. And I just want to talk about really one aspect of this here. So the meeting was interesting. This clip is like 3.5 minutes long. I'm probably going to cut it before it's over. But after Sue spoke, now this is speaking on the superintendent's evaluation. They did show the dispersion of the of the scores. They have, they actually have a matrix here. They have a whole rubric, and there's multiple different categories. In general, there are typically in most categories, there's some deviation, but in most categories there was 3 votes that are on, kind of the bottom half of scores, and 6 votes that are on the top half of scores. All entirely predictable. We don't yet know if that's how it appears. The full evaluations, the original forms will be available in the next week or two, probably closer to 2. So that will be public, and then we'll know, and I'll certainly be writing about those. But after
Tom just, like it's like one of those people like they get a fork and a knife and there's a steak in front of them and they're just like,
Well, and we're gonna get into a little bit of what's inspired all this was a 6-hour meeting back on June 20th about the budget, and I just broke it up into a series because there was way too much. But so on going back to this past Thursday, and the superintendent's evaluation, when that was Sue's comments during discussion about the evaluation, and then Diana Biancaria said the following. This is about 3 minutes long, but I thought it was interesting. Why it takes so long to come up, I don't know.
Embedded
report on our superintendent. Whether she's been here and arrived 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 30 years ago. The point is, everybody has a job. Superintendent has a job. School committee has a job. And right now, it's the evaluation of the superintendent. It includes goals. It includes setting the goals, monitoring the goals, looking at the final results. We have some families that are very pleased with what they're receiving. We have some families that are looking forward to having some improvements in the areas that their kids need. But we have a lot of shareholders. We have a lot of state. We have a great city. We need a great school system, and we need to continue to work on that school system. We have standards that are set. We have programs. We have to be concerned with safety. We have to be concerned with success for all of our students. I look forward to what the MCAS results are. We should be getting them sometime in September. It's a collaborative effort, and that collaborative effort entails standing up here and asking the tough questions, not always standing here saying, what a great job. This evening, when I talked about transportation, we went back and forth with this for a number of years. We end up with our own system. So what do we have for money? How did it work? What happened? Where did it go? What actually was the end result? Are we going in the right direction? The only way we're going to know that is if we actually ask that question.
So I don't think anybody, so I cut it short, but I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. I don't think anybody would expect any school committee member to stand there and say everything's beautiful. You should ask the tough questions. I'm even for opposition just for opposition's sake, because if there is no opposition, providing opposition just for the sake of opposition, I'll even support that. I don't disagree with anything you just said.
So the other thing that, so I think that the issue is there's this concept that that's not happening. I think that there isn't critical evaluation being done by, I guess, people that would be set aside as supporters of the current superintendent. But if you go and listen to her interview with Manny on Manny J Media, not the shill for Manny's show, but when we did the interview at Burncoat to end the school year, she gave herself a B-, right? So, and she said that, I'm trying to do well. And she said that she admitted that some people would probably give her a C. And she says, but there's a lot of issues in a major system. Our system is not a small school system. And there's a lot of schools, there's a lot of kids. And she's managing a huge organization. Factually, it's a multi-million-dollar major corporation that she's managing. And that's not all. That's dealing with funding issues. It's dealing with staffing issues, and also a constant turnover of kids because there's new kids, that change every year, and there's another set of kids that leave, and so it's not just a regular job. So to say that evaluation is not being done, we know that at least the person in the job themselves is self-critical, right?
Well,
And so,
right. Well, I mean, look, she's the most qualified person that's ever run the school system, and that's
by
not close.
far, it's not even close.
No, what the results will be are yet to be seen, right? I mean, I think she's doing a good job so far, but it's been 2 years, or she's in her 3rd year now.
Yeah.
And frankly, I wrote this in the first piece of the series. The school system doesn't perform very well.
It hasn't, not for a long time. Right.
And if you take just an analytical look at the data that the state provides or collects, that didn't change in the previous 6 years. So,
right.
And I would never say that about a former superintendent. But when you become a school committee member and start advocating for the way you did things in the past as the best way to do them, well, I'm sorry, you put yourself there to be criticized.
So I agree with that, but I also say this, that you can see even in this little snippet, which I don't necessarily disagree with anything that Diane is saying, but I will say that there is a part of her framework for analysis which deserves significant scrutiny, and that is that she said she's waiting for the MCAS results in September. Now, this standardized testing as a marker for evaluating a school system has proven to be at least controversial, if not.
But yes, you're right. I don't want to get. We have a lot to get to. I don't want to get.
I'm just saying that framework of judging kids by a standardized test. We at least admit at this point in reality, 2024, that every single person learns and works different. So having some kind of standardized goal to achieve, to get to, might be the wrong framework with which to evaluate how a school system is actually doing, even though there are some other objective things like graduation rate, right? Like things like that maybe you could, right? Grading might not necessarily be the thing that you use to judge people, because the grading systems have changed so dramatically over the past couple of years, right? There's been a huge shift in how we evaluate those things. So it's hard to say, like, I'm actually trying to give Maureen some more credit, because it's really difficult to compare her management with Rachel's management, because they're actually different systems already. In a very short period of time, you've seen a complete departure from some older systems, which you wrote in the second of your pieces about how we need to get away from some of the older systems. And Dr. Monterez has begun that process of getting us into different systems. So realistically, she needs more time to be evaluated correctly. That's just the logic for me.
So I just what I want to do here is compare, and this is very short. It's only a piece of her comments about the climate, the Office of Climate and Culture, during the budget process. Now, the way this has been framed by former Mayor Mariano, who's, and
how you really feel, Tom.
I mean, the guy's a clown. Let's just be honest. The guy reported crime statistics at school that were based on an email that was floating around the police department.
Oh yeah. Well,
and what the Telegram published, which is what he said, was, I think it was over 3 times higher the number of incidents that the police responded to during that time than was reality, and they never corrected it.
Hey, that was one of my first.
So they left people thinking that there was all this violent crime just ripping through our schools. It was just irresponsible on every level, and it's just like these two. And I mean, they're 3 peas in a pod, the 3 of them. And it was just his just trying to tear the superintendent down with anything he could, and it was nonsense. It was nonsense. He's not a reporter. So he's not a journalist. So he doesn't, he took something that somebody gave him and stuffed it in TNG, and they let him, which is worse.
Which blows my mind that the TNG editors continue to let that email run. And it's been now almost 3 years now, 2.5 years that email's been floating around.
It's stunning.
Mayor Petty and the chief of police have both repudiated this email publicly multiple times. And the TNG never runs even the little small disclaimer that Mayor Petty has said that these numbers are wrong, or that the chief of police has said that these numbers are wrong. So I just don't understand from a journalistic standpoint how the TNG even gets away with that when the actual sources of the actual data say this is not real. It was an internal, basically made up number. Well, we got Laura Clancy. It included it included schools that were not in Worcester and
and when I asked for a crime analysis report, because when you've done this for more than 5 seconds, you know how to do that. The police department produced the number of responses to schools, the addresses of schools, within the time that schools are in session, on days that schools are in session. So you get an actual understanding of responding to incidents at schools when schools are in session. Not somebody, was at a school on school grounds at 8 o'clock at night doing something, or there was, whatever. Actually during school. That's what you ask for when you know what you're talking about. Anyway, so I just want to kind of juxtapose, if you will, Miss Biancaria's very reasonable statement. She shouldn't be a pushover. She's not there to say everything's beautiful. But if you go back to June 20th, this is just one of the things that I address in my latest piece, and it takes forever to switch over. I don't know why.
Dun, 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 loading.
When they're taken out of the classroom, when they're misbehaving, or there is an issue, they're put into a room
Did we
that
just freeze?
everybody
Are we
bought
really?
supplies for.
Okay, let's start that again. Sorry.
Have different games they're going to be playing, and they have different pieces of a puzzle that they're going to be putting together. So they're not going to be educated in those rooms. There's not going to be a long-term suspension. It's going to be brought into that room. And then they'll be brought back into the classroom where the students who want to get educated are there.
Did you catch that?
I did.
So sorry for the hiccup in the video. I don't know what that was about. So what she's referring to is a room that the Office of Climate and Culture will use when they need to remove a student, for example, from a classroom, right? Being disruptive, having behavioral issues in the classroom. And that office also includes behavioral counselors as well, right? So this approach is putting, from what I understand, teams of 4 to 5 people in schools. They're extending it to some middle schools this year, who are engaging with kids on a daily basis, right? They're there to provide security. They're, doing the parking lot stuff and doing the front door stuff. But it is a proactive approach to behavior management rather than a reactive punish them. And what really, this might be the moment that set me off on writing this whole series. Imagine wanting more suspensions.
Even
you want
though
more kids out of school.
The crazy thing is that under former Superintendent Bianita, the report there was a detailed report over, I don't know, I think it was 4 years or 3 that the school committee went over that showed that suspensions are one of the worst tools leading to positive education outcomes. They don't resolve the issue at hand. And in particularly out of school suspensions almost always lead to bad outcomes. But then in-house suspensions, the old tools that we used to use when we throw a kid in a room, lock them in the room, and just have someone stand guard while they're doing homework or whatever it is that they used to do, that doesn't lead to anything. This approach, at least it's different, and it involves a more engaged situation. Now, I understand that they're harping on the board games. And of course, they're receiving this information from a staff member who doesn't agree with the policy, right? So there's some staff member who says, "Oh, they took this kid that did something wrong. They put the kid in a room, and then they played a game with the kid." So let's just stop for 1 second, everybody, and just think about that. We have let's say a middle schooler who flips out for some reason. Shouldn't we want to figure out why? Not immediately assume that they're a crime lord. Maybe it's just that they had a really bad day and they're a kid and they need to be dealt with because they're a child in a way that we deal with children. Why not approach it that way? I just don't understand it. Instead of this idea of just lock them up, get them out. They've broken the rules. Permanent record on the permanent record. That nonsense. It's just not it's not a good approach. It has no value.
And it's really, it's just, imagine being upset there won't be more suspensions. And if you go back to your point about when Ms. Benenda was superintendent, 2018, I think it was last year of her first contract. There was quite a let's call it a kerfuffle. There was some outcry about the statistics that were released about how they were suspending kids and how many, the demographic mix of who was getting suspended and for how long.
Big shock.
No, not at all. And there was people calling for her contract not to be renewed. Now it was
the first time.
It was renewed, but that was really the beginning. In my mind, at least, it's arguably the beginning of the end. I mean, you fast forward to 3 years later, the end of the second contract, she got one vote, and she didn't even get member Biancaria. Remember, she was a school committee member then and voted to move on from Benenda. So, I mean, people could disagree. This is very much an interpretive thing, but that was really the first kind of public that I remember, any public kind of pushback against her leadership at the school department. I'd argue it was kind of the beginning of the end. And now that we're here, and we have a superintendent who doesn't believe that kids who had to be removed from the classroom don't want to learn, or that it's more desirable to educate the kids who don't get in trouble.
Right.
We have a superintendent who doesn't think the kids are undesirables. Imagine.
Right.
But that they like who doesn't want to learn in this situation?
Right. But the
suspension. Hold on. Who doesn't want to learn in this situation? A suspension issue, outcry over the rate of suspensions, in my mind, was the starting block to the end of Benenda's tenure as superintendent. And they're crying about more, and she's crying about she wants more suspensions. Tell me who doesn't want to learn.
No, I'm with that, but they don't make that straight line like thought process. They don't connect the two together and say we're arguing for things that led to the bad relationship between the school committee, the mayor, and the former superintendent, right? That's what happened. We saw there was a direct line correlation related to specific policies. By the way, these policies are nationally. This is not just a Massachusetts a lot of people are going to go, oh, it's liberal. That's not true. Almost every public school system and private school systems are moving away from suspensions and old school corporal punishment as a tool for engaging in education environments. It is almost universally in this country now something that has been done away with. And in this particular case, the specific example that she was talking about wasn't a kid that committed a crime. It was a kid who was freaking out, right? So it was a specific situation, right? We obviously we can't talk about the kid and the teacher involved. We're not going to do that, but it wasn't there was no contact between this student and another student. Then there was no contact between that student and staff. They were having an emotional breakdown and the teacher asked the resource person to get the student out of the classroom to create a better environment for the other students. So again, and the kid was crying and was upset, the particular student in this case, but there was no incident related to this. This was a staff member who disagreed and felt like the kid was being treated in I guess too nice. But why don't we also logically think out the whole situation? The kid in question, there was a disruption in the classroom that affects other students now. So the best possible thing is to get the student who's having, whether they're doing something wrong or they're just having a reaction to something, to get them out of the environment where they're having that reaction, right? Isn't that how you want to be treated? I want to be treated that way as an adult.
Well, let's rather than that single scenario, let's look at it a little differently. What's the number one cause of so hold on, people or kids of all ages, they misbehave for a variety of reasons. Could be a kid being a kid and being rebellious.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of reasons, right? But when you get into psychological and deeply emotional stuff, right? People that have or especially kids that have behavior problems,
like me, like I did.
I mean, so again, a lot of things can be behind that. what's I'd be interested to see if you know the answer to this question. What is the number one cause of child abuse in this country?
The number one cause of child abuse? It's usually poverty, right? It's usually
Exactly
related
right.
to economic
Exactly
conditions.
right.
Right.
Exactly right. And that's according to at least I don't know if it's the official position of the Department of Justice, but according to a paper that's hosted on the Department of Justice website, the number one cause of child abuse in this country is poverty. Worcester's rate of poverty rate is 19.5%. It is seventh highest in the state. So that's just one example. What about kids that go to our schools that are from families that are refugees? I mean, as as Americans born in America, probably have not even a clue what some of those families have been through.
What those kids are going through, yeah.
Right. Never mind whatever genetic or medical reasons that impact mental health and a whole host of other things. What about the rate of sex abuse in this country? Well, we actually don't know, but we do know that most sexual abuse, sexual assault is not reported. We do know.
Right.
We're pretty fundamental understanding of that. So just the poverty rate alone, right, and its impact on abusive situations at home. I bet you we're probably going to have some problem kids.
Yeah.
And what they don't need is to be thrown away.
Right.
That benefits no one.
It doesn't help anybody.
It doesn't benefit their neighborhood, their community. It doesn't benefit the city. It doesn't benefit the economy. It benefits no one.
Well, and not only that, I mean, and just speaking just a little bit from experience, I am a person, and some people that are watching that know me know this. I'm a person who was suspended from school several times. And I can tell you this right now, there was not one suspension that I went home that I did not go and do more bad things. I'm telling you that right now. Every time I was suspended, and by the way, my mom did not always know that I was suspended. Sometimes I got suspended and I disappeared. And I went and ran rampant. In fact, sometimes I actually I can report this. This is live breaking news. But when I was once arrested as a 15-year-old boy for playing mailbox baseball on Stafford Street by the current chief of police and the last chief of police, who were at the time patrolling partners, they both arrested me for mailbox baseball. I was suspended from school at the time. So just understand that suspension does not necessarily lead to behavioral change. I'm not saying there's never the right time to be suspended. Sometimes there's levels of behavior where we have to remove a student from school. Maybe they're harming themselves, they might be harming another student, or they might be harming staff, right? So that's a different situation. The situation that they're using, though, in this particular case was emotional responses. That, by the way, according to the same report, if you go back to that meeting and the whole thing was read out because member Mailman then read the another part of that same report, the issue was resolved and the student returned to the class. What member Biancharia was arguing was the student should have been suspended for what happened. But in the specific situation, they didn't read the full report because the student was returned to the class. And apparently there was a good educational outcome. So wouldn't that be something we wanted to argue for when the kid was removed from the class and brought to this room where they played a game? Apparently it calmed them down enough that multiple trained adults said they can go back, and they were returned to the educational environment, and it was a good situation. Don't we want those things to happen? Isn't it logical that you would want the result to be the student back in class? Isn't that the goal?
Yeah, so it's really stunning to me.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, it's really stunning to me that there's people on the school committee that apparently have not a lick of trauma informed anything. It's stunning.
And I mean that's where we're at in just in our society in general. And by the way, it's not a political position. It's not like you're taking up a particular party or you're taking up a particular philosophy. What you're saying is we're going to deal with situations on a case-by-case basis, which is good because not everything, like Tom just pointed out, is the same. Some kids have cultural issues. Some kids have language barriers. Some kids are dealing with poverty issues. Some kids are dealing with school transfer things. They might have transferred in from another thing. There's a lot of things that happen that lead to a kid being in a position where they might be in an emotional state.
I didn't mention kids from families that are homeless right now.
Right.
Which is a thing that exists in Worcester public
Worcester-
schools.
By the way, Worcester, it has one of the higher transfer rates in the county. Why is that? Why do we get more kids transferred in, despite the fact that the schools, the schools around us have more money often, right, for some of the towns surrounding? Why do kids transfer into Worcester? Because it's bigger, because there's sometimes more opportunities for them, and sometimes it's related to their parents working in the city or moving to the city. There's so many different things that lead to a student coming into a new environment. Again, speaking from experience, I went to many, many, many different schools because we moved around a lot. It's always a traumatic experience for a child to move, not just from a school system, like, one town to another, but just from a school, right? Just let's say you're at South and your parents move closer to Indian Lake and now you're going to Doherty. That's a completely different environment, right? It's a completely different place. And it's a different set of teachers. It's a different set of standards. They even have different programs, which we found out about when Manny and I did the media tour. There's different programs in each high school, which I didn't even really know that. Right. Now that I know that. So what if the student now isn't in a class that they liked and now they're in a class that they don't like? And there's all those that are going on.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need hypotheticals,
yeah.
It's just openly advocating for, kids that misbehave, they don't want to learn, so throw them away.
It's just the worst thing. And yet we have a million examples of the kid who was misbehaving and wasn't doing the right that turned out to be the genius that invented a rocket or whatever it is. There's a million of those examples.
But the kids that didn't get thrown out, the kids that don't have problems, it's hard not to start reading through lines from what we're really saying here,
Right. And then the pitting of the families, when you hear that statement about there's some families that have needs that aren't being met, and then there's some families that are having their needs met.
Just throw the kids out whose needs aren't being met.
It's ridiculous. It's just not a right. We shouldn't be positioning families against each other. We're supposed to be. The other thing about collaborative learning, right? Which again, we've made as a society this bet on public schooling. If we're going to have collaborative learning, we should want to have those families involved and not creating division between the two groups. Or if there's 2 or 5 groups or 10 groups or whatever it is, we should not make these imaginary situations up, which then creates more pressure on the kid. Why are we putting more pressure on our kids? Why? What's the point of that? How does that help them? Does it help them?
I'll give this much of a benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
This is probably too kind, but I'm going to say that some of the things that were said in this budget meeting was so stupid, so cataclysmically stupid, that they can't, the way we're interpreting it can't be the way it was meant. But that leaves us with only one thing, is that the fervor, there's just the rabid approach to trying to just chop this superintendent down because she is not the last one it's gross. It's really gross. Any way you slice it, either these are bad people that believe bad things, or they've gotten this side agenda so twisted that they're out of pocket. And again, we're past. That's an idea from, I don't even know. It seems like it should be too long ago that they would even have been, kind of nurtured to believe this stuff, right? That we just don't throw kids away anymore.
I mean,
but if it's no one.
It was more than, I think, someone can correct me, but it was more than 10 years ago that we even got rid of the term in-house suspension, because the word suspension, this is not, again, this is a common practice across education systems throughout the country, throughout political differences, that using that term is not the right term. So we're now going back to something that we've agreed doesn't work, and we're going to advocate for that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. It just doesn't make sense.
And just lastly on this, because we've been on this forever.
Yeah.
Another thing that was brought up, of course, was lamenting about the lack of either police or security in schools. And I would just say that the Office of Climate and Culture some of those kids that were a report from the General Accounting Office at federal, and it didn't happen a lot here, but just in general, just to get an idea of the result of what school resource officers led to. Schools with school resource officers, that is a on-duty police officer inside the school, according to the GAO report, had twice as many arrests as schools that didn't. Police, they do a lot of things. Police do a lot of things. We ask them to do too much, but the primary action of police is to respond to reports of crime, investigate, and arrest people who commit crimes. Maybe in some of those kids that get arrested in school, who else? They saw somebody else with a uniform, and that was the thing. That was the recurring the thing that was said a couple times. That Member Biancardi was upset that there was not going to be nobody in uniform in the schools. Some of those kids also saw somebody else. It's called a corrections officer because they were in jail, where kids generally, unless they do something horrific, don't belong. So maybe that person in uniform isn't the best thing to lead to a culture of learning or in a climate of education.
I think that most people, when you sit down and look at it from a reasonable standpoint, we recognize that it doesn't work and it hasn't worked and it doesn't create a safer environment. And I just want to point out Mayor Petty, who at the time didn't necessarily support the change, has made the very passionate arguments now throughout this year that that our schools are not as dangerous as they are being reported, and that
Correct.
When you say that, you're helping to facilitate an environment where it is, and that's not okay, right? So arguing for officers without evidence that there's a need is actually completely against getting the result that you're looking for. Again, it's not logical. And the lack of logic is what is astounding to me, for folks that say that they care about kids, or as Member Roy uses often, the littles, which I think is, an interesting. No, I don't. That's something I've heard a lot from teachers, para education professionals. They call their students the littles, and I think that's not necessarily a bad way to look at it. These are small humans, and we're tasked as bigger humans to take care of them, right? And so, but why would we want to approach it from a non-logical perspective? And that's really what I think about. Again, I come from a position where I was not a good kid in school. My dad's watching right now, which is funny, but so I was not a good kid. I had my father had to come to school multiple times to get me out of there because I was acting a fool. And this is when my mom and dad were divorced, right? So sometimes my dad had to come from other places and get me out of there because I was not acting it right, and so I recognize that does happen in school, but the way to respond to it isn't necessarily this kind of like lock them up, throw them out attitude. It doesn't always result in it. I understand I'm wicked smart, as they say, but not every kid has the same resources that I had. But by the way, I did have, both my mother and father were very smart people, and they supported me educationally. So I got good grades. But that, again, this goes back to the other you made at the beginning. Good grades doesn't necessarily mean the kid's not troubled, right? I was a troubled kid, even though I was getting straight A's. Although I did get a D in conduct. They don't have that grade anymore, but I did get a D in conduct.
Yeah, look, when my MO in high school was I would be like an A student the first 2 semesters, and then I would just get bored. And so I'd barely pass, but I had it was like 98, 90, 75, 50 was kind of my report card every class.
Nah, I was straight A's, but I was fighting in the hallways.
Well, that too. So yeah, that's and then actually I will add one more thing. The tone of what Member Biancaria said about, it's not my job. I'm supposed to get up here and ask hard questions. Yeah, sure. And maybe if that is like an underhanded reference to the the other side, the 6, right? Because there's been so many votes to the 6-3.
Big division.
Well, it was the 3 that polarized this, though. Like the 6 are, if there is some sort of coordinated effort to protect the superintendent by them from this assault on her for no reason, it's because there's an assault on her, and you polarized this. So stop pointing the finger at people. Your behavior has been reprehensible. The tone was a little different on Thursday, which is good, and hopefully that will lead to a more productive working environment on the school committee. But
Stop throwing stuff at yourself.
I know my earpiece falls out. I don't know. But just like, let's not lose sight of who polarized this whole situation.
I'm with that.
All right, I'm
Next
talking
topic.
too much. Yeah, I don't even know what's next. Oh, well, so you were part of a tour of the new Doherty High School. Tell us about it.
That's right. So last Tuesday, Manny and I went on the media tour for the new Doherty High School, and it was unbelievable. Like, it was unbelievable. The money clearly was well spent. Um, just little things that you wouldn't think about, but like the lunchroom, the tables were spread out. There was lots like a room for seating. There was a lot of light in the school, a lot of like open ceilings with skylights coming in, a lot of natural light pouring in there. The hallways were wide, which, by the way, I mentioned earlier that I used to get in fights in the hallways, and one of the things that would always happen is the little shoulder bump with the guy in the hallway, and then now you're fighting and there's people everywhere. So it was clean. It was nice. It looked beautiful. The technology was there. Everything you can imagine. It looked like a college campus for all intents. There's some amazing stuff that they've integrated. One of the things I really liked is that they have this 8th grade um, building that's designed to have Doherty 8th graders integrated into high school a little bit earlier. And that's something that is a common occurrence. You get to high school and you just go from middle school to high school, and often in that integration is a little bit more difficult. So they've created like a separate functioning space for 8th graders to be introduced into the high school a little bit earlier. And I think that's a great idea. That makes a lot of sense to me. But the thing that really stuck out to me was the vocational programs. They had a full scale sand pit for mechanical engineering, oil changes, cars, like inside there. They had these massive carbon printers, robotics lab, just so many cool mechanical, vocational training programs that it just blew me away, because it's something I've argued for a long time. Obviously, Worcester Tech is which used to be Volk and shifted, is the one place in the city. But this now, people are turned away from tech all the time because there's not enough space. This creates more technical educational opportunities for students, which, by the way, there's so many opportunities in the trades that are just being not utilized because we're not teaching our kids those skills anymore. And this is just a great investment by the city. And I don't know who else was involved with this, but great job with Doherty. The principal was awesome, but everybody involved, it looks awesome. It was. I can't say anything critical because it was so good. It blew me away, and you can tell the staff are excited about bringing the kids to that school next week, and it just looked amazing, and they've done a great job. So
excellent.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, I mean, look, yeah. No, and look, graduating kids with tech experience. I mean, look, that's where the economy is going, and it's already there. And putting kids in a position where they can do better when they get out of school is the point. Hopefully they want to college and get higher education and all that. Some may choose not to, but either way. And,
the fact that just opening up the opportunities for kids to learn trades right there, it's just it's great. Like, give them that shot. And I love the fact that it's right there. The robotics lab was so cool, dude. There's like a pit there where you could have robots fighting each other, and I was like,
thing.
what is this? It's not really fighting each other, but they climb over each other, and they they learn skills and stuff. But all the parts are right there for the kids. There was one particular room that stands out that I thought was amazing, because the music program there is supposed to be a heavily invested thing. But they had 16 Roland stand-up pianos. These are all like $10,000 pianos. It's unbelievable that they have all this stuff. But then they had individualized practice rooms. If you're a musician in any capacity, the fact that you would have a space for a student to go into a one-on-one or maybe it's a one-on-two or whatever situation, and all of the practice rooms, this is something that you could see clearly. Everyone had big giant windows, right? So there's no like small windows. There's no opportunities for the teachers to be like put in a situation where they're alone with the kids, wide aisles, all that like bright space. You can see that modern thought went into these all these different rooms and all these cool things. So I hope that they continue to do that with Burncoat. Burncoat's next, right? So continue to do that that investment in our kids, because it really is. You're investing in the next generation. It looked great, and I was blown away.
Yeah, and for folks that quick rant on commercial tax rates. If you want to see the commercial tax rate come down, well, as we just covered, near 20% of our people are in poverty. Median household income is of 59 cities in the state is 8th lowest. So it's eighth from the worst. So if you want to lower the commercial tax rate, you have two options. You can raise taxes on poor people, which it will never be the political will to do, or you can actually put real effort into education and build a workforce that may attract businesses, because that is a thing that businesses spend far more money on than taxes, is hiring talent.
So, and I noticed that real quick, the biology lab that's going to be opening in the fall down by UMass, I noticed that one of their executives was at this tour, and so he was walking around in the robotics lab, and so like he was clearly engaged with the principal about how are they going to be taught this, how are they going to be taught that. So there's a literal executive from a company in Worcester who was at that school for that tour, talking to the head educator about how the students there were going to be trained with skills related to his company. You can actually see it happening, and that's like, wow, that's amazing that you would set it up like that. It's really well thought out. I understand that it's hard to do that in a full system, right? Because it's really difficult to do it in what is it, 71 schools all total? How many total schools?
I don't remember.
I don't know the number, but it's all that, every level, kindergarten up to high school. It's really difficult to do it all at once, but they clearly thought this out at this school, and it looks like a well balance between liberal arts and then vocational training. So you see both things were invested in the same school, and there's an awesome gym.
Yeah, I saw pictures. It was good. It looked amazing. Yeah, and I mean the thing is transforming the city's economic reality. It's going to take a generational commitment to education, and that's why
all the Doherty kids are going to come out jacked, be amazing musicians, and know how to build robots. So like we're on the path.
We're on the path. All right, good. Again, do not recall what was next.
No, start on the street.
Oh yes. So Start on the Street is going to have its 20th annual event this year. It's a great event that goes on from between Park Ave and Pleasant and Park Ave and Highland, with they say I think 250 vendors. I swear it's about.
It was over. I think it was over 400 this year.
Was it?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That includes the food trucks. So like, it's a lot. A lot.
But it's been an event again. This is its 20th year, and this year will be its last. Those that operate it, the founders are currently running it. Combination of, it's a big job, it's a huge event, and it's a big job. They said recruiting enough volunteers to make the thing happen is arduous, and all three of the women who run it are have other stuff going on. That includes, two of the women who are key in operating it, are opening at 2 Ionic Ave, which is the old boys club, right? Is I'm going to forget the name of it, but they're opening a center for artists and to teach art to kids and whatnot. They're opening a physical location. It's going to break ground later this year, I think in the fall. So just a combination of those things is what they said in an actually really well written and kind of emotional letter that they wrote, announcing that this year would be its last.
Yeah, it was a tough decision. And so if people recall, I don't know how many people remember this, but Start used to be called Wart back in the day, which was one of the cooler things. But anyways, they changed the name to Start. But Start on the Street's the largest arts-based public festival in central New England, really, every year. And you have all kinds of cool things. You used to have the folks from the workshop come with the dragon that would spit fire out of it that was made out of metal, and you had really cool stuff, and all the cool artists would come out and sell their stuff, and it was cool. And then you had some of the businesses that exist already on Park Avenue would participate in it. Like That's Entertainment usually has a special sale that day. They usually get some artist will come down and sign comic books, or they'll have something related to Batman or whatever. And it was just a really cool participatory event that got really that whole area. And if people know anything about Worcester, you know that Park Avenue, despite it having 1 million businesses on it, is the place where businesses in Worcester go to die often, right? You go to Park Avenue, and for some reason, because it's really a state highway, on this particular day, though, they shut the street down, and you get all these people, thousands and thousands of people come from all around to go to this event. The thing that really struck me about the letter was they said that the costs related to the event are prohibitive, and it makes it difficult for them to continue operating the event. And if you listen to what we said at the beginning, we talked about there's hundreds of vendors. So knowing how much I charge at some of the events that I'm involved with, and this particular event being a high attendance event, I recognize the vendor tables are probably a pretty significant amount of money. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue versus tens of thousands of dollars. So, and then the key is that they had to recruit volunteers. So what's costing them money, right? If you really think about it, what are the costs related to it? So obviously there is some paid staff, but the other thing is they have to pay for the police detail, which, by the way, that is not the police are not receiving city funds. The organization has to pay for it themselves. They have to pay for the actual closing of the street. They have to pay for every single one of the food trucks' food license for that day, because outside food in an enclosed event is a different license. All the vendors have to have their license, and the organization is responsible for taking care of all of that. And that's normally how it goes. When you go to an event and they don't do that, that's usually when you see events go bad, right? And so it's just a huge undertaking, and they really only had the 3 or 4 paid staff, and there's so much to do that it's hard to maintain. I understand what they're saying. What I want to say to this is that to the city, why do we keep having these things happen? Why are we making it more difficult? I know this from looking at event space myself, that it is more difficult to get an events permit in the city this year than it was last year, because the form is more difficult. It's not more streamlined, even though our city manager has talked about streamlining things and making it easier. It's in fact more difficult. You can go and look up some of the stories where the planning committee and the Parks and Recs and all those things, were proposing different things to make it even more difficult. It just is one cool thing about the city, and we lost it. And it's like, man, we can't have anything nice because we just don't want to have people come together. And I just want to advocate that this is a really cool event where all kinds of different people come together. There's for example, for my folks that go to church, there's a bunch of churches that rent tables at this event. There's a bunch of artists that stand right next to those churches that are completely different thinking processes. It's actually a really cool place where you just see diversity of thought, diversity of thinking, diversity of people, of all kinds of cool stuff. And I just wish that there was someone who would step up and do it. Now, before you say, John, you do that, I have a lot going on myself. But what I mean is, I mean someone within the city structure that would advocate for events that are not major corporations, right? So the Red Sox and Polar Park, they get a lot of things done pretty easy. DCU Center, partially city owned, same thing. But why can't we have something independent like this that is allowed to flourish and grow, and that gets city backing and city investment and that kind of thing going on? I would think that that would be Matilda's Kitchen. Dora, that's right, Matilda's Kitchen. My friend Dora is in the chat. They have a cool food truck and Honduran food, right? Am I getting that right, Dora? You can yell at me. It's great opportunities at this event. And so we need more things like that. We need more food festivals. We need more events where we are having the local people from the city get involved in stuff. And so I just feel bad. Tina, has worked really hard over the years. I think she deserves a lot of credit. And I hope that there's some opportunity for somebody to step up and fill this gap and make events easier. Oh, Dora says I got it right. That means I pay attention, Tom.
Well, and when you have somebody when it's the same event and the same organizers year after year, I mean, I don't know if the process is any more streamlined for them or not, but I mean, when somebody's proven that they're going to put on a big event like that, like, shouldn't it just be, we looked at your application last year. Has anything changed? Okay, good, go.
Doesn't it bring economic activity to the city? Because I mean, you got thousands and thousands of people all streaming into one place and spending their money. Isn't that good for the city? I think it would be good for me. I know it's good for Dora. Dora's in the chat right now, right? She gets people to come to her truck and buy food. And what's wrong with that? And also, you get the opportunity to experience something that you might not experience every day, right? Because in this, just because she's there, Dora's truck is a food truck. So you don't get to see her every single day. How many times can you go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger? Well, you can try out some. And by the way, Dora's food is unbelievable, Tom. If you get a chance, go to Matilda's Kitchen.
I will.
I don't get any. I have no financial interest in her truck. I'm telling you, she's an unbelievable cook. Go eat her food.
I will. So yeah, it's it's a shame. I don't know. I haven't talked to those involved. I don't know if the city was a factor or was cost or I don't know. But it is true that I mean, look, the Caribbean Festival is another one that has been happening 7 or 8 years now, and Jennifer Gaskin was the one, or is the one who kind of spearheads that whole. I'm sure she has other people to help her, but she kind of spearheads that whole thing and said, last year was went to city council to say this is more difficult than it's ever been.
Every year it seems to get harder. My question is, if you have an event like this, like for just real quick in Boston at the Common, they have permanent events like that have like grown over decades, and that they're allowed to get their licensing years and years in advance. I get that you're going to charge the event a fee. I understand that. That of course you are. The city's going to get their taxes. We understand that. However, wouldn't it make a lot of sense to make plans over the period of like 3 or 4 or 5 years instead of making them go year to year with an event as successful as this one? That's the other thing. Start on the Street this year is probably going to be its most successful event ever.
It was so big last year. It was ridiculous.
They're going to close? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you would think they were just getting started. The 20th year anniversary is usually when they're like committed to another 10 years, So I don't know. You just would hope that there would be somebody, and maybe there's a place for me to advocate in the city with the city councilors for some kind of stream, or maybe a 1-page form of some kind where an event organizer can apply for an event space, 1 fee, 1 form. And then maybe what you do is make it by how long or how big it is, right? So it gets more expensive the bigger the amount it is. I don't know, something like that.
But what the city's priority is, rather than events that bring people into the city from outside the city to spend money, the city's priority is streamlining how they appoint constables. It's just, you can't make the stuff up. We are.
Everybody go to Start on the Street September 15th. Get out there, go support them. Buy all. I guarantee there'll be some special T-shirt that's printed or something. So I gotta go get my last Start on the Street T-shirt.
Yeah,
my
I mean,
$50.
and there's a million vendors with a, a wide range. Besides food, there's plenty of food, and then there's all kinds of crafts and art, and people selling T-shirts and all kinds of things. It's even if you're not going to spend anything, it's cool to walk around. There's a bajillion vendors right on Park Ave. It's a cool event.
Yeah. All right, it's getting late. It's almost the best part of the show, Tom.
Oh, what do you got?
This week. All right. So, yeah, for those of you who are watching for the first time, Tom and I like to talk about food at the end of the events. So we've done some desserts, we've done different things. Last week we did favorite sandwich. So this week we're gonna go left where you thought we were gonna go right, Tom. Going left where we thought we were going right. Ready for this? What is your favorite vegetable?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I threw a curveball. No one's seen that coming from John. No one's seen it coming.
I'm going to go corn on the cob.
Corn on the cob. All right. So, my favorite vegetable is carrots. It's carrots all day, every day. Carrots. Yesterday at the baptism at the church, there was like a little tray, and everybody had eaten the broccolis, but there was carrots left in there. I smashed those carrots. I seen Brian was watching in the chat earlier, and just so you know, I ate all your carrots. Brian, I loved them. They were great.
Carrots?
I love carrots. Love them. Love them cold. Love them hot. Let's see. Leanne checks in with zucchini. Whoa. Zucchini. That might be controversial. I don't know. We have some people watching all that. Huh?
Why is it controversial? I mean, zucchini's a thing, though. It's largely on how you prepare it, right? Corn on the cob is hard to screw up. You boil it. You pull the crap off. You boil it. Eat it.
Now I want you to sing the corn song, like the kid. The kid who loves corn. You can't pick more than one, Leanne. You only one vegetable. Sweet potatoes.
Well, that's enough mistakes for 1 week.
We did pretty good.
We will try
Sam Sachs with a cucumber.
A cucumber?
Yeah, Sam Sachs.
I've been eating a lot of
Sam Sachs.
I've been eating a lot of cucumber salad lately. You just like cucumber with onion and tomato or something. And I just like I can't see myself going back to the lettuce and onion and whatnot. Just can't see it.
Sam gave us a suggestion for a future question. Maybe we will have that question, and maybe some of y'all who are watching, you'll get to see Tom eat at Matilda's Kitchen at Start on the Street on September 15th, where I'm going to make him live up to his word and go buy some Honduran food. Absolutely. Speaking of which, we accept all sponsorships here at the This Week in Worcester podcast. If you want to hear Tom and I argue about Worcester stuff all the time and give us money for it, sign up.
Yeah, most of the yelling this week was just me yelling about stuff and not at you, so that's good.
Yeah, you didn't yell at me at all this week because I didn't say anything about the Celtics. We didn't do hot sports takes this week.
Yeah, not our bag. For my partner in talk, John Edward Keogh.
That's me.
We have screwed up enough today. We will try to do better next week at the same time. We do this every Sunday at around 8:30.
Look at Sam with this shameless plug in the chat for Wormtown Productions. He did the video last year for the Start on the Street. Bravo, Sam. Good job. Good use of media right there.
All right. This